This HOA president was terrible, so I was living a peaceful life in my cozy home on the street, blissfully unaware of the storm that was brewing just a few doors down. It all started when the ever so powerful and slightly sinister HOA president decided that he had his sights set on my house. I'd never been a part of the homeowners association, mostly because I preferred to have the freedom to paint my house any color that I please or plant whatever flowers I desired. The HOA president had always seemed to harbor a particular animosity toward me. Perhaps it was because I had a house that he secretly coveted, or maybe it was simply because I didn't conform to his vision of a perfectly manicured neighborhood. The signs of trouble began to surface when I received a letter in the mail one sunny morning. It was from the HOA, you guessed it, stating that they had placed a lien on my property for unpaid dues. It just was absurd because I wasn't even a member, and I certainly hadn't received any bills from them. The HOA president was using scare tactics to force me out, and I was determined not to give in. I knew my rights, and I knew that they could not legally put a lien on my property. I decided to confront that HOA president, hoping that a simple conversation could resolve the matter. I knocked on his door. My heart was pounding in my chest as I prepared for our showdown. The HOA president, with a smug grin on his face, welcomed me into his living room. "What brings you here, neighbor?" he asked, feigning politeness. I cut right to the chase. "Mr. President, I am not a part of the HOA, and I've never received any bills from you. Why'd you put a lien on my house?" He chuckled condescendingly and said, "Oh, you see, there must have been a mix-up, but if you can cooperate and sell me your house, we can make this all go away. It's a win-win for both of us." I was just taken aback by his audacity. He wanted my house, and he wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. "HOA, Mr. President, I'm not selling my home. This is my property, and you have no right to do this." His face turned red with anger, and he shouted, "If you don't cooperate, I'll make sure that lien sticks, and you'll have a hard time ever selling your house to anyone else." I left his house, seething with anger and frustration. It was clear that the HOA president was willing to go to great lengths to get what he wanted, but I wasn't about to back down. So I decided to do some digging of my own. I went to the county office to check the records, and what I discovered left me in shock. The HOA president had tried to put the lien on my house under the table without the knowledge of the rest of the HOA. It was a blatant violation of their rules, and he had knowingly hidden it from everyone else. Armed with this evidence, I attended the next HOA meeting. I presented the documents that proved the HOA president's deceit. The room fell silent as everyone looked at the incriminating paperwork. The atmosphere in the room grew tense, and the tension was palpable. The other board members were a mix of shock and anger. They exchanged uneasy glances, realizing the magnitude of the HOA president's actions. The HOA president's face turned ashen, and he just stammered, "This is all a misunderstanding, and never intended for this to happen. It's a clerical error." But the other board members were not convinced. They were furious at the breach of trust. One of them, she was a tall and stern woman, spoke up. Her voice was just quivering with anger at this point. "HOA president, you've crossed a line that can't be ignored. You're dismissed from the HOA board, effective immediately." The room erupted into a heated debate as other board members voiced their outrage. The confrontation was fierce, and it was clear that the majority stood with the evidence and the rules of the HOA. The HOA president was ousted, though, and my house was free from the wrongful lien. As I walked out of that meeting, I couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph. The HOA president's jealousy and greed had finally caught up with him, and justice had prevailed. I returned home, relieved that my house was safe from the clutches of this power-hungry former HOA president. This next one's a massive multi-part HOA madness story, and you'll love it. I asked one of my neighbor friends to run for board because I liked her. She got on and is suddenly such a politician and is now trying to take over the Facebook group for the neighborhood that I run. Posted by Queasy Calendar 6597. FHOA. So my neighborhood is small. You might remember me. We'll check those stories in a moment. We have 30 homeowners and 85 homes owned by AMH, formerly AH4R. Our Facebook group is small. 58 people right now, to be exact. It was created by a renter back in August of 2022. I found it in September, and after finding a scammer in the group, the creator and admin, let's call her Kate, decided to make me admin. I also worked hard to get every homeowner possible in there as I started posting things about the HOA. Anytime I see in another group someone state that they live in the same neighborhood, I send them a message to join and so on. I never delete posts and people post whatever they want. Yesterday, I get a message from Kate stating that she received a message from my friend, let's call her Becky, with the following message. Hey girl, this is completely random, but I was wondering if we can add a couple more admins of the Facebook group since we're growing more and more? Or at least one more, me? If not, I completely understand. I just thought I would reach out to see your thoughts on that, smiley. My intentions are not to change anything, just to have extra hands and just in case anyone moves and so on. Becky knows I run the group. Becky has offered her help in the past and I declined it. Kate really does nothing in the group, as she's basically handed it over to me, since she's never ran a group before and I have. Plus, she's a renter and has no intention on being around forever. I let Kate know that Becky is on the HOA board and I don't believe Becky should be an admin of the group as well, nor do we need more admins, but it's totally up to her. She agrees and tells me, thanks to you, it's all under control, that the group is mine and yada yada. Now, during this, another neighbor, let's name her Liz, makes a post in the group basically saying that all the work that Alex and I, which we'll talk about in just a moment, wasn't good enough because we didn't hand out flyers making everyone aware of the second HOA meeting. Currently, a group of 6 people in the neighborhood are organizing a little neighborhood get-together, with the main organizer being, let's call this neighbor Annie, who I'm also friends with. They had flyers passed out to everyone in the neighborhood. The post said, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to whoever took the time to put out the meet and greet flyers door to door. Not everyone has social media, so I believe this Facebook group should not be the main form of communication for community events. So for example, HOA meetings. If the community is so passionate about homeowners having more influence in the HOA committee, why not put the effort into informing said individuals? Just my 2 cents. Well, guess what? Bob, who's Annie's husband, the one Liz is praising while downplaying what Alex and I did for the HOA, was the one who was supposed to do that, and didn't, but didn't tell Alex and I that he didn't do it until the actual meeting. I commented this, not naming the person, and Liz responds with, oh, that comment wasn't meant to put blame on anyone. It was meant to raise awareness. There have been 2 HOA meetings and there wasn't much notification for that first one either. Alex becomes ticked and starts commenting back to all these people defending mine and his actions. Becky is being a fake politician. Coincidence that Liz posts this while Becky is trying to become an admin and to make her little clique admins? I think not. I messaged Becky basically asking, what the heck? All I get is messages like, I didn't mean it like that, and I only messaged her because she's a creator versus you're an admin, that she wanted to be an admin in case anyone moves. Yeah, okay, fake. I told her, sure, if you ever have concerns about how this page is being managed in the future, please don't hesitate to inform me. If people relocate, they can remove themselves voluntarily. It seems that you all have conveyed that the effort that Alex and I put into everything was not satisfactory, and that's alright. Hope you have a pleasant evening. Like, okay, bye, jerk. If you have an issue with the group, you make your own. Shaking my head. So yesterday around 5:30 p.m., Alex makes a post in the neighborhood group, tagging the board members, Becky, James, and Jacob, asking if there's any updates on what's going on with the HOA as far as officer positions, the next HOA meeting, and so on, as he's received the annual bill again. About 15 minutes later, James comments and says, we have a meeting at 6 today to discuss. I see that, and I comment asking what exactly constituted a closed board meeting, because otherwise, state law requires 48 hours of notice to owners and an open board meeting. Approximately 2 hours later, around 8 p.m., he deletes his comment, and so begins the attempt to cover it up. Don't worry, I screenshot it knowing he'd likely delete it. Now at approximately 9:45 p.m., Jacob decides to post the following to the neighborhood group. Due to feedback from community members, there is a rising concern that HOA posts are cluttering a community page primarily comprised of renters. At this time, I kindly ask that posts involving the HOA be avoided here out of courtesy to all of our neighbors until we can establish proper channels, a place to express, and, most importantly, address concerns that are established. Details will be forthcoming as they are available. Well. Who does this guy think he is, dictating what can and cannot be said regarding the HOA in a neighborhood Facebook group ran by myself and a renter? Alex comments on it in confusion as to why, in a neighborhood group, would we not be allowed to discuss things affecting the neighborhood. I delete the post. I message Jacob stating, "Hey, if you have a concern with the way that the page is ran, you're more than welcome to bring your own concerns to me. But you do not make the rules of the page. If the HOA wants to make a Facebook group, awesome. But as for the neighborhood group, it is going to remain open to discuss any issues that anybody sees fit." He types and stops over and over and does not reply. He then proceeds to go to Alex's original post and comments, "Hey Alex, I was in the middle of responding, but my post was deleted, so I didn't get a chance to respond there." That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. The purpose of asking that the HOA post be avoided in the community page was to buy time and avoid people leaving the group until we can find a more formal venue. While Facebook is a great tool, a portal to submit concerns and items for meetings would be more beneficial in the long run, in my opinion. I delete that comment as well. He then decides to message me back stating, "It is unfortunate that you missed the part where I asked," and "Okay." I reply stating, No, I absolutely didn't. This is the first time that I've had to delete a post like this. As a board member, you should not be trying to control the conversation about the HOA. For reference as well, not even half the members on the page are renters." No reply back, of course. I knew Becky was trying to do some crap when she tried to weasel her way into being an admin. They want to control the narrative regarding the HOA. I updated the group rules this morning to state that it is an open discussion group, and we encourage open discussion on any topic that involves our community. This may include discussions about homeowners association, HOA matters, issues with the rental companies in our area, city news affecting our neighborhood, and other relevant local topics. However, please note that this group is independently run by neighborhood residents, which is not affiliated with any official organization or governing body. I woke up to this post, posted 6 hours ago, from James. I've tried to be civil and just ignore what has been going on through this page, but I've had enough. There are many homeowners who are upset at the behavior of one of the administrators. Whether she is on the main page stirring up contention or threatening lawsuits or direct messaging and harassing and belittling homeowners, this behavior, in my opinion, is unacceptable. Instead of this community page being a resource to connect with everyone, it is a hostile, toxic environment. Because of this, I and many other people am leaving this page and will look to start a new page where this type of environment will not exist. I know I am not alone in this, and it's unfortunate that we have to start another page from scratch, but several of us have tried to remedy this current page with no success. We are still figuring out how to run the HOA, as all the members who actually were voted on to that board are very green and have to learn what we're doing. Once we figure that out, we will have a way to communicate official HOA news and updates through whatever management company we can find to fit our needs. We will also be posting relevant information about the HOA on that other page, though it shouldn't be much given that we only have a few small parcels of land to manage. The HOA board for the following message is as follows. James is the president, Becky's vice president, and Jacob is treasurer and secretary. Hopefully this post stays up long enough for people to see before being deleted like other posts from other members. Y'all, I am sick of these people. I commented back and stated, I updated the rules for that reason. Jacob attempting to make a rule on what should and shouldn't be talked about on this page was inappropriate. The concern should have been brought to me prior to posting it. As for your secret board meeting, it's a big problem. That was legally required to be an open board meeting. I will not be deleting this post. Jacob's post was the first post I've deleted because of his ask for a rule to be made. You cannot control what is said about the HOA, and you shouldn't, because that's a huge no-no in the HOA board world. Alex's question was totally an appropriate ask, which, by the way, you did not have to respond to, but you did, exposing that you were having a closed board meeting with no announcement. The next part's called, "We got railroaded by the rental company that owns most of the homes in our subdivision for board seats," also posted by Queasy Calendar 6597. Prefacing this by stating, we had already checked with not one, but 2 lawyers, and they both have told us the rental company can only have 1 person on the board. The rental company also told us they only wanted 1 seat. At our meeting to elect the first ever board for this HOA that's been non-existent, 12 out of 30 of the non-rental households showed up less than our last meeting in April. Up until this point, AMH, formerly AH4R, told us that they wanted 1 board seat with 1 of the officer positions. Well, apparently 30 minutes before the meeting, AMH texts Alex, him and I are who organized this meeting, and tells him here's our 4 people we're putting on the board. We tell the lady that shows both of the lawyers that we've talked to said that you can only have 1 board seat, so this rep that they sent as their proxy gets another one on the phone, and this lady on the phone is going ballistic about how they own the majority of the homes in the neighborhood, and therefore they get to have all the seats they want, and that their legal team told them that. The rep that they sent then proceeds to throw an absolute fit, that instead of me printing them 85 ballots for each lot, that I printed 1 ballot that states multiple addresses and has every lot number of theirs listed. She starts hooting and hollering about how I need to print them 85 ballots and mail them out. I said, excuse me, but the voting has to be taken in person or by proxy, which is also in person per the CC&Rs and the bylaws. So here's your ballot. Make the votes on that. She then marks a snarky butt comment that they are write-in candidates. Like bro, you literally gave us names 30 minutes before the meeting. She then gets all ticked at Alex and I, stating that we railroaded them. And at this point, Alex was getting ticked. He's usually pretty hard to get a read on how he's feeling, but he was definitely getting mad, as he's been the one in communication with them for the last month and a half. AMH refused to budge, so what ended up happening, and as it currently stands, was they have 4 seats and us homeowners have 3. I had almost the lowest amounts of votes for me on the ballots, 6 out of 12. There was obviously a communication between a couple of the men there not to vote for me, because they're friends with my loser butt next door neighbor, who we haven't gotten along with from the jump. These people have zero idea what me and Alex have been doing and dealing with in the background, and what type of prep went into this meeting, and I believe that they think being on the board will be a piece of cake and that they don't really have to do anything. One of the women, who I personally asked to volunteer to be on the ballot, got the 3rd homeowner board seat. As we were chatting on Facebook yesterday, she basically snaps at me because we disagree on how to handle AMH, and I told her that she was being a little too nonchalant about things, and that the new board isn't looped in to what me and Alex have been dealing with. She goes on to say, well, why aren't we looped in? And I told her, look lady, none of you were involved. Not once did any of you ever offer to help or do anything to help. I'm the one that asked you to be on the ballot for the board in the first freaking place. So she sends a snarky reply of, well, yep, that's correct. Now it's time to step up, yada yada. Basically, that my assistance was no longer needed. So I thumbed it up and went on about my day. She messages me an hour and a half later, apologizing, stating, sorry, just wanted to apologize if I came off not caring. That's not my intentions. Just ran into some personal things, and messaging you at the same time, my mind was in 2 places. Thank you for your knowledge. I tell her, no problem at all. If you feel confident in handling things, I wish you the best of luck. Just to clarify, I have no issues with you personally, which is why I wanted you to join the ballot. However, regarding board member number 1 and 2, and the board in general, I've decided not to provide any further assistance or knowledge. They have an issue with me, and that's fine, but I have no desire to deal with it anymore due to that. I still intend to assist homeowners in understanding things, however. It then triggers a "wait, what?" type of response from her. I go on to explain that it's obvious a bunch of them all voted together and voted out of spite, not out of skills. She then begins to realize how screwed up the vote was. Neither me nor Alex made the board. The two people who have worked on it the most, she is now like, oh crap, and that they definitely banded against me, and begins trying to figure out a way to do a revote or have new votes cast. And I told her, nope, sorry, no way to redo anything unless it comes back that AMH cannot have those 4 seats that they took, but that's for the lawyers to figure out. So now we're at a standstill again, and basically it has to go legal. Oh man, what happens if people are going against the CC&Rs and bylaws? I'm going to preface this with I'm a rule follower. If there's a hard-written rule, I'll follow it. Now let's get into the story in question. Utah, 2020 to 21, new build community. The HOA has basically been non-existent. No meetings, no contact. Paid dues are due in April 2022. In February, we all get bills stating that all of our dues were due in January. Makes 0 sense since our dues have always been April. So that kind of sparks interest for people to finally start poking around. This is a cheap HOA. We have no big parcels of land, there's just an itty-bitty weird strips around the neighborhood, and it's about $11 a month. Now I, for one, had already done a crap ton of research on everything back in September 22 when I was having issues with my trashy neighbor. So I was extremely familiarized with our CC&Rs and bylaws, and I was already aware that we were screwed as the homeowners. Let me preface this part by stating, no, I am not going to sell my house and move. I don't give a crap what this company does, since, like I said previously, I'm a rule follower. On to the story again. Our community is comprised of 115 houses. 30 of the houses are homeowners. 85 is owned by AMH, formerly AH4R. Now, the way of our CC&R and bylaws are written, each of the owners of the lot are entitled to 1 vote per lot owned, which means that AMH gets 73% of the voting and we only get 27% as actual homeowners. In turn, this basically means that we have no control unless we can get AMH on our side. Like I said, I don't care either way. Now, our declarant released their hold of the HOA back in August 22 and didn't notify anyone, including AMH. So it's been sitting with no board, no nothing. We were supposed to do a meeting within 90 days of the declarant releasing hold, but obviously we weren't aware that they did. This neighbor of mine lives across the street. His name is Alex. Alex was all gung-ho about getting a meeting set up. My mom died 3 weeks before all this started going on, so I obviously had a lot going on. He asked me to set it up, and I told him no, I have a lot going on and that he can set it up if he would like to. Afterward, he kept arguing with me about the AMH homes being included. He reached out to the company that does our financial side of the HOA, and they, of course, confirmed my understanding of the HOA. But keep in mind, they're only the financial management and obviously aren't lawyers or experts in bylaws and CC&Rs. So then that company tells them, well, you can still set up a meeting, and if AMH doesn't show, we can still vote and get everything done. And I told him, okay, if that's your understanding, set up the meeting. But I'm just telling you right now that the rules require 67% of votes of all members to change anything. He says he's not going to jump through hoops for this. A couple of weeks go by, and I message him saying, I assume you're not setting up a meeting? Well, that sparked a fire under his butt, so he goes off about how he had something come up at work and blah blah blah, and that if I want to take over, do so. I remind him my mom literally died, so no, I don't have the time. The next day he sets up the meeting, an unofficial meeting we held earlier this month to discuss as homeowners the next step. A couple of days before the meeting, he starts in on me again about how he thinks AMH homes are not part of it and yada yada. I again show him where it is in the documents. Fast forward to the meeting, and he's getting everybody all hyped up on getting the board going and doing all this and that. And there's another neighbor. We'll call him Bob. Bob is a city planner for a different city, but he's still a city planner, so he knows a bit, but he's trying to convince everybody that AMH cannot come in and basically take over the HOA. I keep reiterating that the way our rules are written, yeah, they can, and they are basically required to be involved in anything we do because they control the vote. But he's like in this weird, no, that's not how it works, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, whatever, so I just kind of ignore it. So Alex starts talking about setting up the next meeting so that we can establish a board. So I told him that I think we should have a lawyer look over the documents first before we make any moves on anything, because you guys are basically going against all the rules that we have. Bob states that he already has a lawyer on retainer for the HOA because he has hookups, obviously, as a city planner. So he states that he will find out some details from the lawyer. Now, last night, Alex messages me and lets me know that he sent out an email to everybody that attended and that he set up a meeting for May and that AMH will be there. He states that it's for setting up a board and that we'll be voting for 3 people, president, secretary, and treasurer. I message him and let him know that, FYI, the rules state that there has to be 7 board members, so I'm not sure how you want to go about that, but that's what's in the rules. He then starts sending me a series of questions. Can you point me to that in the bylaws? Where in the CC&Rs does it state that everyone has to vote? When I was looking at the declarant, they only had 3 people on the board when they were the declarant. So I pull up the documents. I cite all my sources for each one. For question 3, the answer was the same as question 1. It states in there that during the declarant's control, there's a board member of 3. After the declarant's control, it's 7 board members. So then he asked me, do you know who the declarant is currently? And I told him there is no longer a declarant. That was YXC developer who released their hold. So then he asked, so there's no declarant presently? And so I told him, no, there is no declarant. There never will be a declarant again. They released their hold. Then he basically just changes the subject onto something different about the HOA with AMH. Why this dude won't read the documents himself is beyond me, and why Bob keeps trying to manipulate the wording to fit his narrative is also beyond me. I'm trying my best, but I'm obviously not a lawyer, and I feel like these 2 people are misleading everyone else. Bob has still not gotten updates from the lawyer. Declarant cannot become a thing again, right? So this is a proposed resolution to our issues. The declarant released control in August 2022. So option 3 says since the developer released the control, there's currently no declarant. So one idea is to see if AMH can be given declarant control of the HOA. Either developer does this, or through some legal process, they can be named declarant. If by some legal means that they can be, it's an option for the homeowners to allow AMH to be the declarant. In this case, AMH will release the financial management company, hire their own financial and maintenance companies, causing the HOA dues to be increased. Alright, so now Alex, who keeps saying he's stepping down after this meeting, wants to be put on the ballot for board and wants to be president of the board. And Bob heard back from his lawyer, who he obviously gave no background to, came back to him and obviously didn't read the documents in detail. They're trying to argue that we don't have to have a board of 7, only 3, 5, or 7, and that the CC&Rs override the bylaws. Yet, the passage in the CC&Rs tells us to refer to the bylaws for specifics on the board, and that during the declarant's control, it will be no less than 3 and no more than 7. I don't know why I bother, no one wants to listen anyways. How do we even handle voting of the board? Do we allow each vote to vote for multiple people? Because otherwise, we could have one vote for 30 different people. Another Bob update. Woke up just now from a creak in my bedroom, thought I was gonna die. Anywho, got on our group and Bob has commented the following. It appears you've got a complete and clear understanding of what the CC&Rs and bylaws say, so I guess I'm wondering why I even asked a 15-year land use attorney to review our boilerplate CC&Rs and inform us of what it says, if we are going to think that we understand it better. Please do not ask me to ask him any additional questions. It was a waste of his and my time. And, actually, please remove my name from the ballot. I am no longer interested in serving on this board. If someone writes my name on the ballot and people vote for me, I will decline the position. It will just be a waste of a vote. Y'all, I cannot deal with the drama of Bob. Like, goodbye. If you're trying to make me look like a bad person, and if people believe that, yeah, sure, okay. Y'all HOA people are just a bunch of idiots anyways. ETA, I already hired my own real estate and HOA lawyer yesterday. The HOA demands they put a lien on my house, but I'm not even in the HOA. If you like the first story in this video, you're going to love this one, so click a video on your screen, you don't want to miss it, and I will see you there.